everybody. Before we start today's episode, I want to take a moment to tell you about something that has become a daily part of my own practice. Young You Organics White Sage Smudge Spray. Now, if you're like me and appreciate the benefits of energy cleansing but want a smoke-free alternative, this spray is perfect for you. It's made with white sage, clary sage, palo santo, rosemary, and lemongrass essential oils. It has added sea salt and blue apatite crystals, and it offers all the powerful cleansing properties and benefits of traditional smudging without the need for burning sage. It's quick, it's easy, it's portable, and it smells really good. Whether you're at home, in the car, or at work, this spray can help you clear out negative energy, reset your space, and create a calm and peaceful environment. I personally love using it all the time, and especially before recording these episodes to create a centered and grounded environment and condition in my body. So if you want to enhance your spiritual practice in a clean and convenient way, check out Young You Organics White Sage Smudge Spray on Amazon, and we will provide a link in the description for you to check this out. All right, let's get started on today's conversation. All right, hello, and here we are for another episode of Evolving the Conversation. Today we are going to talk about redefining discipline. And I think this redefinition is, it's a way of, I think it's really powerful practice, discipline, actually. So I feel like it's helpful to, to have a discipline in life.
I agree. I also think it's important to redefine it if it's based out of like punishment, shame, and guilt.
Well, I mean, that's what the word is based in. It's not only, I mean, I don't think everything that we're redefining is always based in those things, but I think that relates to discipline, yes. But not everything that we are, or idea or concept or word that we're going to redefine is
Yeah,
related to shame and guilt and punishment.
no, no. I think though, like how it's widely used, this word and this concept in society is based around that. Although it's not always that, like you said, like discipline can be something that empowers you rather than takes away.
Yeah. So I think we'll start by just looking at the dictionary definition of discipline.
Yeah, let's do it.
And this is the Merriam-Webster definition. So it says control gained by enforcing obedience or order, self-control, punishment, training that corrects, molds, or perfects the mental faculties or moral character, a field of study, a rule or system of rules governing conduct or activity. Oh, it says obsolete is instruction. And I think that's what I think of it, or that's kind of how I started to redefine it for myself, was when I thought of it more as an instruction.
Mm, hmm.
I think I started redefining it when I understood it as that, like as an instruction when I think about disciplining the kids. I don't think it's punishment. I think it's teaching them. And then also I started redefining it for myself, like in the dieta practice, I feel like there are these rules or guidelines that you abide by. I mean, but you like enter into it willingly. So there is some kind of like obedience in there, but it's, for the sake of this relationship or this learning or this transformation, and I am deciding to enter into this discipline.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But like with the obedience to the dieta, it's not a punishment, right? So, but like the Merriam-Webster's definition of that is, like you said, like it's sort of based around like punishment and all that entails that. Um, I think in my experience with discipline, it's confusing because like we use the same word to describe two different concepts. In my experience of discipline, it was and still is, a practice around doing things that are ultimately good for myself. And then there's also the other use of the word where it's punishing. And so like, I just feel that it creates like when you're talking with other people about discipline, it can create like a Tower of Babel situation where there's like two definitions around the word, and someone can be using it completely different than how you're using it. And so it can create a lot of confusion in the mind, especially like, just being a personal trainer and also being like within the fitness industry for quite some time. Um, and my own practice of it, it used to be about, like self-punishing because I didn't fit the bill and look a certain way, and then like putting my body through like strenuous workouts that were probably way too much for me, definitely way too much for my body and my joints. And so, like, based off of that, it was, the underlying idea of all of that was like punishment to then try to fit the bill, which I think is, how most of society uses discipline. Like if someone's going to, like, or if society is going to discipline someone, they're going to like do it in a way where like they want to mold someone into something else. And sometimes, I don't know, is that beneficial? Is it not beneficial? I could see a reasoning for it, even though sometimes it seems completely unreasonable in certain instances. Um, However, I think that, you know, with discipline, I think it can be redefined to ultimately be taken out of like the punishment, the shame, and the guilt, and be redefined into something that's going to be more beneficial.
So, what would that redefinition be for you?
I think the redefinition of it would be, well, first, the etymology of the word. I think that's probably important to redefine it and like where did the word come from? And I mean, just doing a little Google search here, it originated in Latin um, with the word disciplinia, meaning instruction, tuition, or training, and then in turn is derived from discipulus, meaning pupil, learner, or follower. And then ultimately the word's root traces back to the verb discere, meaning to learn. So I think where I would want to redefine that is how, I'm practicing, how I'm learning to just live a good life, be healthy, treat people good, and saying, yes to all of that, and saying no to, the things that are unhealthy, the bad behaviors, that, you know, all of it. All of like just saying like yes to the good, no to the bad. I don't know. It's simple in my mind, or I want to keep it simple in my mind.
Mm, yeah, I think of it as right, like what am I committed to learning, and what are the practices that I'm committed to? And not exactly committed to, because I don't think you have to do the same practice day in and day out, but what is the right, like what are the ways that I am learning and that I am what are the practices that are part of this like dedication or devotion to the learning that I'm engaging in or that I that I want to be engaged in. That's kind of
Yeah.
how I think of it.
So how you're defining it is the practice of what you're dedicated to, essentially.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then,
that's kind of how I've learned. That's kind of how I've been viewing it more.
and I just wanted to ask, what are you dedicated to?
What am I dedicated to? I have been dedicated to living from my heart and to creating a life where I'm learning from spirit and mm, learning from God and now creating sanctuary, which is kind of what I was always doing anyway. I just didn't call it that. Yeah, and just creating safety for my kids, for myself. Yeah, just
Wow.
really dedicated to living in like incongruence with what I find valuable and important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think that's important too. Like what has, deep meaning for you, what's creating safety for you and your loved ones around you, and all of it.
Yeah, and then I think of discipline as how, like the how. Like how does that, like how do I actually learn to do that?
So like discipline is the implementation of all of that.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like the constant, like it's consistency. I think there's like another aspect of being disciplined. Like you mentioned dieta, right? Like there's a consistency with it day by day for the duration of the dieta and then a period of time afterwards. Like you have to be consistent with it to like actually gain the benefit from it. Like if you are on the second day just chowing down on a pizza, it's not going to be a very positive dieta.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with consistency I think there's also flexibility in the consistency, and I think that's an important point, kind of going back to what you talked about before, where discipline was perhaps, like I have to work out every single day, right? Like my discipline used to be, um, am I following this strict diet? Like, am I disciplined enough to eat, only chicken and vegetables
Yeah.
every single day for however long it takes to, lose 20 pounds or whatever? Or am I disciplined enough to, you know, go to CrossFit every single day, 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on, 1 day off?
Hmm.
Um, so there is consistency in that, but I think it's like a punishing discipline versus I mean, I guess it's what was the intention at that point, right?
Yeah, I
Perhaps
mean, I
it's like,
think
what's your intention in the consistency?
yeah.
It's too like I could be consistent with all the practices, but like it doesn't mean I'm necessarily doing the same practice every single day, right? Or even like focusing on the same thing all the time.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, like consistency is a double-edged sword. The way I frame it is like I want to be consistently healthy. And so that looks different day by day because my energy levels aren't like this in like a linear fashion, just like constantly going up. But I definitely empathize with what you said too about like the strict diet. Like I have been very similar in the way where it's like I'm going to my family's for dinner and I'm not eating the same food because like I'm hardcore discipline in not eating carbs or whatever. Like, I think the carbs would have been fine just for that day, and then I could continue on with, the consistency of not eating carbs. But I think like me denying myself that pleasure ultimately wasn't something that was healthy for me. And then I also think too, like going to the gym week in and week out when I was really young, like thinking I'm like disciplined and like going in there and like squatting like I don't know, like 350 pounds and then like benching like 315 pounds. These are real numbers too, by the way. Just and then and then like deadlifting like 400 pounds. Like ultimately hurt my body and like doing that like consistently week in and week out for years, it ultimately has taken a toll on my body. Um, And so, like, yeah, the consistency of that is a double-edged sword. I think if I, though, reframe it to say, like, okay, I want to consistently be healthy, what does that look like? I think it goes back to what I mentioned before, where it's just, it goes day by day, or you like, however you want to measure it. Go minute by minute, however nitty-gritty I want to get about it. Um,
Yeah. How little by little you're going to break it down.
yeah, like, it was just an example. I don't really
No,
do
I
that.
get that. I think so something that comes to mind is, thinking about discipline and consistency. Um, it also reminds me of like in a school, for example, right? Like there's my kids are going to school to learn, and it's like a consistency, like you have to act the same way every single day. There's rules, like there's like this like highly structured way that like you would maybe consider discipline. And that is like they're learning, right? It's like one way of learning, like this very like mind-based, like really disembodied way of learning with a lot of discipline and structure. And then we also have like a learning, like for example, we're both in we've talked about the Blue Morpho Sitter course or like the Blue Morpho Academy facilitation program. So that's a lot of learning too, but it's not that the discipline there is like sticking with it for as long as it takes to learn the practice.
Hmm.
But the learning style is all like experiential, right? It's not like you have to learn this way. Yeah, you have to do your ceremonies and like put in the reps, but like there's no set way that has to happen. Like it's just going to happen by again and again and again. And the discipline there is like the learning and the commitment to the decision, but it's not this right, it's not this like it has to start at 9 every day. It's not in like half hour increments. You don't have all these rules to follow. Basically, the rules are just like keep yourself safe
Hmm.
and keep the people you're working with safe. So I
Yeah.
think I think perhaps too it has to do with like the learning style or the teaching style that we were kind of I don't know if indoctrinated is the right word, but that we were exposed to, right? Like that's the very um like that learning style is like the prevalent way that we're learning in our schools, at least in our country, right? I don't know about all other education systems.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I think the public school system is like the indoctrination of the discipline of becoming a good factory worker.
Yeah, and then I think that's where like the obedience comes in and the punishment. It's a very it's a very outside in pattern. Like the outside is the punishing thing, is the thing telling you what to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the one up, one down.
Hmm.
It's like the authoritarian, like someone outside of you knowing better. Um, we've talked about that as well. Like we see it a lot in the medical model, like the doctor being the expert, which they are. I don't want to say they're not. Um, And that's also changed a lot because now we have so much information available to us.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, ChatGPT.
Yeah, I mean, or just internet in general,
Yeah.
right? Or even access to people that, like other medical professionals are that are like integrative or approaching health in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think um it's about, like the discipline can be a double-edged sword, like we've been talking about, um, around like what are you really committed to? Like if you're really committed to doing things that are ultimately going to be negative and have a negative effect on your body, like well, that's still discipline. You can still be consistent with that, and that's I think the double-edged sword of it. I think it all goes back to decision too. I think, I mean, from my experience with it is like I've come to a fork in the road where once I became aware of negative patterns and habits, well, then I'm aware of it and I can, at least then decide to, well, continue with it or just scrap that and do something else. And do something else that's going to be ultimately more positive uh, for myself and for the people around me. I think that's also discipline too, and then being consistent with it. And like you said, like with the ceremonies and everything, there's no one like telling you what to do. There's basic safety guidelines, and it's up to you. Like, are you dedicated? Yes or no? And in time, it will show. I also, I've been mulling this one over in my head too, where I mean, I think there's like one-off successes that we all experience that don't really take much work, but I think like the majority of how we find success is just being consistent at something that is going to be bringing us success. For instance, like understanding the shamanic principles is not like you wake up one day and you understand it. It's like, no, you just dedicate yourself over years and over time, I think you're eventually gonna get it. I think to like be good at something, most people like really aren't good at something right off the bat. I think it takes time, it takes dedication, which I think is like the discipline of being consistent with saying yes to whatever it is that you're intending to do.
I agree. And I think, I mean, sometimes that might, maybe like when you're younger or so, it takes like a little bit of an outside influence, right? Like for example, my kids, right? I have to remind them like you're not going to be good overnight. Maybe you have to practice or keep going, right? I don't know if they're capable of having that inner like, oh, I'm making this decision for myself. I don't think they have that cognitive capability just yet, or
It's an
even like the
interesting point.
understanding, So like I have to kind of, same thing with like brushing their teeth, right? Or taking a shower. I am like scaffolding them from the outside to be like, you have to do this thing every single day. We have to be consistent in taking care of our teeth if we want them to last.
Yeah.
And not, I don't even know what the concept, like they're root canals and fillings and stuff. So there is some kind of outside, um, you know, coming from the outside a little bit. But I think that's only perhaps when, right? Like you can't have that internal, I don't know, those cognitive abilities or understanding like, oh hey, like long term, right? Like what are the consequences if I don't take a shower or don't brush my teeth or only eat, like junk food every single day.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point, right? Like when we're younger, I think we have such a myopic understanding of the world where we just don't understand.
Yeah. And
Like,
then the
I gotta brush
discipline
my
does have to
teeth.
come from the outside.
Yeah.
And it can feel punishing, right? I'm sure, like, for my kids to brush their teeth every day, it feels like a punishment. They don't want to do it. Or to, like, get dressed every day,
Yeah.
or not get dressed. Like the other day, I was thinking James, he fell asleep in his clothes. And then in the morning, I'm like, well, you got to change. You're going to school. And I'm like, well, sometimes I wear the same clothes. Like I take them off for bed and maybe I'll just put the same thing on. I know Louis does that. He wears like one outfit all week long. Although he also wears like something different for work.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, why does he have to change his clothes every day?
That's funny. That's
But
funny.
here I am like enforcing this. Part of it was like, well, your teacher is gonna notice that you have on the same clothes. I mean, and plus like you're dirty. You're running around in the backyard and like playing football at lunch and God knows what they're doing in the backyard after school, all hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm only coming at this from a theory because I don't have children, but I would like children one day. But like you mentioned the example of brushing the teeth and the clothes and all of that. I mean, I don't think the I mean, as a kid, yes, maybe it could seem punishing, but like if you're the caring adult, you're holding them accountable so that they can be healthy because they don't quite understand like, okay, if I don't brush my teeth every day, or like if I'm consistently not brushing my teeth, there's going to be negative health consequences. I'm sure as a kid, like I didn't think about that.
No.
But yeah, I don't think that telling the kids to brush their teeth is punishing. I think that's like being like holding them accountable to uh, be healthy. I think the punishment would be like, okay, now go to your room because you didn't brush your teeth or
Oh
something like
yeah.
that.
I don't think I'm punishing them. I think they find it to be punishing.
Yeah,
Like having
yeah,
to brush the teeth every day. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I know what you meant. It's funny. It's funny.
yeah, no, I don't think that's a punishment for them. I think right, it's me having to be the enforcer of their discipline, of their daily practice,
You know what's
because
funny?
they can't do that themselves.
I'm smelling. I just got a whiff of like the toothpaste I used as a kid as we're talking about this.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny. I mean, how much of that when we're younger was just the adults holding us accountable to a certain standard when we thought it was just
Yeah,
punishment.
I know. And then in there, you do have the punishment, you do have the teaching, you do have the learning. It's all of it.
Well, I mean, it's so hard to rationalize to a kid, like, um, if they're not brushing their teeth or doing whatever, really, like, you need to do this for your health. I don't wanna, or whatever. I don't know how your kids are, but I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I do a great job explaining of like what your health is, just like keeping your body alive
Yeah.
and in like in a way that you're able to do the things that you want to do on a daily basis.
Do you want to continue to eat food? Yes or no? Yes, brush your teeth then.
Yeah, right. It's hard to it's really hard to understand the consequences. I think of myself too, even being like a young adult and not always wearing sunscreen, or
Mm,
like not recognizing the consequences of like like spots on your skin or more wrinkles or even like skin cancer, right? Like
yeah,
at the time, you're just like, I want to be tan. Tan looks nice,
I feel that. I've been there.
And even then, I mean, are a little bit older, still, it's hard to always recognize what those consequences for your lack of discipline would
Yeah.
be.
You ever see that one South Park episode where they were doing karate and the one karate teacher, I'm probably gonna say whatever, I don't really give a shit. But the one karate teacher was like, Cartman, you lack a discipline. Some Asian dude. I fucking love that episode. Anyway, but um, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because, right, we get like all of these definitions of it, and as you were saying, it's like it's a double-edged sword. If it's a discipline that's ultimately going to be negative for you, it's like you got to be discerning. You got to be discerning, like what you're saying yes to, what you're saying no to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a learning, and I think that's what the value of it.
Nah, that's the
Because
root of the word.
yeah, I mean, because even recognizing that, right? Oh wow, like this behavior I was engaging in was really like not helpful, was harmful. Could be part of your discipline,
Yeah.
depending on what that thing is that you're dedicated or decided on.
Yeah, I would even take it to the next level then and say like, okay, if I am aware now that I have had negative behaviors and patterns, then I need to also be disciplined and not beating myself up for it because that's not going to be healthy. It's like overarching discipline of health. What does that look like? Well, that looks like, oh, I'm a human being capable of mistakes. I've made many mistakes along the way. I'm going to continue to make many mistakes and I'm going to learn from it. And that's the discipline. I'm going to grow, get a little bit better.
Yeah, the discipline of just being human,
Yeah,
learning how to be alive.
for real.
Yeah, learning
God,
how
make
to
it easier.
do it the easiest way possible. Well, I don't I don't know. Is it up to God to make it any easier? What I've come to where I am with that right now myself, and I think this is part of the discipline, is is the practice. And so I can approach life from an easeful kind of like place inside of myself and approach situations with more like groundedness and presence. So I could approach something hard with ease. Not that everything in life is going to be easy.
Yeah, from what I get with what you just said, it's like the discipline, creating the skills, and dealing with the challenges of being alive.
Right. Yeah, because the stuff that we call hard or easy isn't always involving only us,
Hmm.
right? Like it's the relationship that you have with that other thing that we'd be calling like hard or whatever we want to, describe it as.
Yeah,
So that I can't necessarily control,
no.
but I can do my best in my discipline so that I can then, right, like interact from, yeah, so that at least like what is in my control of myself is up to, is, I don't know what that word right there is. It's like the
How you react.
integrity or like the integralness, I think,
Yeah.
ultimately is I think what it is.
Yeah, maybe not how you react. I just said that, but like, like how are you responding? I don't know, maybe I'm just being semantical there, but like how are you re
It's like, yeah, like how
how
are
are
you
you
being or
using
like what
yeah,
are you
yeah.
being?
Yeah, how are you
Or
being
like
like what skills are you using to respond to what's going on around you in a challenging situation? That's also discipline, and then it's also built through discipline.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know about you, but I take like almost an exact opposite of what I've been taught around like uh got to step outside your comfort zone and like all of these things like with discipline. I don't know. I'm more like I want to be disciplined at building the most comfortable life I could possibly build for myself. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't know what these people are saying, but like I just want to be comfortable in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, you just want to feel comfortable.
Yeah, there's like there's always that like you got to step outside your comfort zone. Like, do I? I don't really want to. Kind of just want to be comfortable. Like, I get what you're saying of like, or not you personally, but like I get what you're saying about, like growing and all of these things. But like at the same aspect, like who wants to be uncomfortable? I think there's like a certain, I don't know, it's something I don't really resonate with all of that.
Mm.
Like honestly, like if I could like have a really comfortable life, that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to start like what is comfortable even.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Like,
that would be like, okay, you look at humanity and what humanity is doing in all of its insanity and going, I'm going to not do that. I'm just going to do what I can to live comfortably. And then I think that's like in
yeah,
all
but it's still
aspects.
not like describing what the comfortableness is.
Comfortable financially, comfortable physically. And I don't mean like not working out, because like that wouldn't be comfortable either. Like if you just let your body go to waste, right? Like that's not what I'm meaning. I'm not meaning like being like sloth or lustful or like any of these things that like there's a biblical term around. But I mean just like like waking up and then going to bed and minimizing stress and challenges that are unnecessary, if I can.
Mm. Yeah, I again for me, I'm really approaching it from my own self and like how am I in relation to stress and challenges because I'm not sure if those things can be avoided, especially like interacting when I don't have control over anything in my environment, really. I
Hmm.
mean, not anything. I shouldn't say not anything. Like for me, it's what you're saying reminds me of, right? Like, and I like this or I don't like that, or I want this and I don't want that. Like their original, like what I think of as like my original, like duality, right? Like moving towards pleasure and away from pain. But like, why can't I redefine and not necessarily redefine my relationship to it, but like pain in finding pleasure in the pain or something, right? Or just welcoming whatever's coming or whatever's here. But I mean, that's
Hmm.
also like a discipline in and of itself.
Yeah. I just, from my experience, I want to take the opposite approach where if there's like external things that are causing me stress, I want to minimize that inside myself and be as comfortable as I can. And like not even finding pleasure in the pain because I don't really find any pleasure in pain at all. And I think it's just painful.
Well,
And
that's true, but I mean, like for me, I have kids, so would I rather not deal with any of their emotions? Sure, but what am I gonna
yeah.
do? Like, I can't just say, guys, sorry, I'm avoiding this, so go to your room and cry. You're fighting, oh, go to your rooms. Like, I don't think that's, I don't think that's, um, I don't think that's necessarily the way that I could approach every single thing. Yeah, are there some things that like I could eliminate if
Yeah.
they're stressful? Sure, of course.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't think that I could do that for everything.
No, and I think I'm misunderstood in a way here too, because I don't necessarily mean avoidance. I mean, like, okay, just in this example, right? If I had kids and they're arguing with each other and it's causing a stressful situation, like, I'm gonna want to minimize that and figure out a solution to where they can stop arguing with each other, stop creating drama, and just like be nice to each other. Like, what is that solution?
Right.
And then
And
go
but
for
that's
that.
always going to be about how I'm being
Yeah,
in relation to what's happening. I can't say like, I mean, I could just yell like, stop! But that's not like, that doesn't help the situation for the next time or even that time. So it, excuse me, that kind of for me goes back to what I was saying, like who am I going to be? How am I going to be in these situations that are causing stress? Of course, I would like to avoid it, but it's not possible.
yeah, and I don't think avoidance is a good answer either. I'm
And I
not
also
saying avoid
can't
it.
eliminate it. Well, because that's what you had suggested, that you just want to get rid of all of these things. So I'm saying I don't think it's possible, especially if I'm coming from like looking at my life. Like that's highly stressful for me dealing with my children's emotions.
Sure.
It's like one emotion plus another emotion doesn't just equal like, it's not one plus one equals two. It's like what, it's like one plus one equals God knows what
Yeah, I mean,
in
when
terms
I,
of the energy.
yeah, I mean, where I said I'm feeling misunderstood is that I'm talking about minimizing the stress or stress management internally, and then just with the example, like if things are going on externally, that uh, I can work at finding a solution for to minimize or to relieve the stress of the situation for both the external and the internal. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to do to create comfort. And if I can't, well, okay, I can't. There's always that. And then there's always, how am I going to respond on the inside? And that's decision. And I think that's discipline, which isn't always easy. It's not always easy to like not get caught up in emotion. I know that one for a fact. I definitely can get caught up in emotion. I think we all can.
Yeah. And I mean, that's part of what I was saying too, is like changing my relationship to emotions, right? Like things that are, uh, I don't know, traditionally like, or considered like maybe emotions I want to avoid, just being like, no, this is part of being alive.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And whether I have a preference for it or not, like this is what it is right now. So, hey, what about like being welcoming of it?
the emotion.
Yeah, or whatever the situation is.
Mm. In some instances, I would say yes, and then in some instances, I would say no. Like if there's a situation where it's like extremely harmful, I'm not going to be welcoming that in.
Well, I'm not saying you have to welcome everything in. It's not about welcoming everything in. It's about then saying, okay, well, this is a harmful situation, and how, like, what are the steps for me to extract myself from that? I'm not saying I have to like sit there and tolerate everything.
Yeah, yeah. I think if I can respond internally in a way that is going to be comforting for myself, even if it's, you know, even if it's like just accepting the emotions of whatever scenario it is, like if I'm angry or whatever, and then working at balancing that out inside myself, and or whatever, if it's sadness and working, really harmonizing that within myself, so eventually, like, it's not going to be something that I'm holding on to all the time. And then if there's like that external source where, like, okay, if I could find a solution for it, great. If not, well, then okay, I got to accept that too. And then like going back to like if it's like if it's harmful, like yeah, of course I don't want to be welcoming that in, and I'm not saying that you are saying that. It's just it's a broad topic. There's a lot of moving pieces here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nuanced. It's not black or white. And I'm not saying you are saying that. I'm just saying that's It's just being alive. Fucking A.
Yeah, a lot to learn about being alive.
Well,
I
there's
think
the
there's
root of the
lots to
word.
learn about being about death as well.
Ooh, elaborate on that.
Well, I was just thinking, like, I don't really know what it is, and but I have this idea, or I actually have no idea about what it is, but like, and it's this thing that like seems to be avoided at all costs. But I'm like, I wonder what it actually is really like. I mean, maybe it's wonderful.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's so. I mean, I'm just speaking from my experience, but I just find it scary in a certain aspect because it's like the ultimate unknown.
You know, it's unknown. But like, are you scared of being alive? Like, how much of your time we spent living in fear as you're alive?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's like there's not really a reason for it either.
A
But
reason
like
for
there
what?
is like there's not a reason to be scared of being alive, yet our species of human beings produces every reason for you to be fearful of being alive. Go look at the news. Go hang out with people who are constantly in conflict. I mean, outside of um, certain communities that I'm in, or a certain community that I'm in, you know, most people that I experience are just in a state of conflict. And so, I mean, like, that creates a lot of unnecessary fear of being alive. And sometimes it even leads to like, oh man, when's this shit gonna be over? Like, I'm fucking done. I'm tired, you know? And yeah, and I think that's where like I have that mentality around like, okay, I see the conflict, and I see where I'm at, and I see like I don't want to have anything to do with the conflict at all. I'm tired of conflict. I think it's played out on like the most minute scale, and I think it's just played out on the most epic scale you could ever imagine. It's just like all exhausting. And I don't know why, but you know, as one of our teachers says, or a few of our teachers say, like our species is addicted to the conflict. Why? Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, it's exhausting. So, I mean, I want to build a discipline at minimizing all that shit and maximizing, you know, peace and tranquility and being comfortable and having a loving community and having supporting people around me and being supportive of those people and just like going back to what I said, like I just want to be a good person. Like and I feel like that's how I can be a good person. So yes to that, no to all the other bullshit.
That makes it simple.
I need it simple.
Well, there you go.
What else do you have to add, Melissa?
Um, I don't know if I have anything else to add. Do you?
I think that, you know, like when it comes to discipline, that I think we were talking about mistakes, and I think mistakes are always going to happen, and that doesn't mean that like it breaks a discipline around something. I think that is just a learning experience, and that you don't actually fail when you learn something out of it, going back to the root of what the word actually meant when it was invented, I guess. And um, that I think ultimately we can find success in the consistency of learning from mistakes and just learning in general.
Yeah, so mistakes are okay.
We are not perfect.
Definitely not.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, then I guess that's all we have for today.
That's all we have. So if you made it to the end, please give us a like if you liked it, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us, how you experience discipline, what discipline is for you, anything you want to share.
All right. Everything he said.
Bye.
Bye.